Hello and welcome to the Year 1 Phonics Screening Check meeting. As I'm sure you all know, I'm Mr Marland, the Phonics and Early Reading Lead at Lily Primary School. I'm using this presentation to talk to you more about the Phonics Screening Check, which your child will be taking part in June this year. I'm just going to firstly talk to you about the aims for this meeting. The first aim is to recap on the terminology that we use when we teach phonics. There's a variety of words we use when we're teaching children how to read, and it's important that both teachers and parents use the exact same words when reading with the children. The second aim is to recap on what phonics is. We use a specific scheme here at Little Primary School. We want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the scheme that we use. The third aim is to understand what the Phonics Screening Check is, and finally, have a better understanding of what you can do as parents at home to help your child in preparation for the Phonics Screening Check. Okay, I'm just going to go through the terminology with you. So the first word I want to look at is phoneme. Phoneme means singular sound. So I have some examples here. So the first word, cow, has two phonemes, k being the first one and ow being the second one. Night has three phonemes, n being the first phoneme, I being the second one, and t being the third phoneme. And car has two phonemes, k being the first one and r being the second one. Okay. Grapheme, this is a singular written sound. So using those same words I had before, you'll see that cow here has two graphemes, with the C being one grapheme and the OW being a different one. And then here, night has three graphemes, the N being the first one, the IGH being the second grapheme, and then the T at the end being the third grapheme. And then lastly here, car has two graphemes, with the C being the first grapheme and the AR being the second grapheme. Digraph, two letters that make one sound. So in these words here, each one of them has a digraph. In pie, it's the I and E, which come together to make the I phoneme. And in shirt, you have the I and R, which come together to make the phoneme. And then finally, day, the A and Y come together to make the A phoneme. So each one of these has two letters that come together to make one phoneme, one sound. And trigraph, very similar to digraph, but just adding another letter. So again, these words here, that's been slipped off there, oops. So you have the word light, where you have the I, G, and H, which come together to make the I phoneme. And then in pure, you have the U, R, E, which come together to make the your phoneme. And finally, E, A, R, which come together to make the ear phoneme. Split digraphs. Okay, your children will have learned a lot about split digraphs this year. So this is where two vowels make a sound together. So two vowels that make a phoneme. However, a consonant is in between them. So a consonant separates them. However, they still make the phoneme together. So in this word, kite, for example, you have the I and E, which do make the phoneme together. However, you have the consonant T in the way there, but it still makes that. So children would segment it as this. K, I, T, kite. Then cube, K, U, B, cube. Finally, cone, K, O, N, cone. So the children have been practicing this a lot this year, and they've quickly managed to segment and blend so many words that have split digraphs. You might be thinking, wasn't this called a magic E at one point? And you're right, it used to be called a magic E. However, we now refer to it as the split digraphs. Okay, harder to read and spell words. So these are words that aren't decodable. They do not follow the alphabetic code. So I've got some examples here. So the word where, for example. So when the children are taught phonics, they know that the air phoneme has a grapheme of A-I-R. Makes the air phoneme. But in this word where, they realise that it's got E-R-E. So it's a different spelling. And it's similar to the word there as well. So the children realise that it's a hard to read and spell word because it has an alternative spelling to air that's not usual when we're having words that have the air phoneme in it. And the same for he as well, because they usually see the E at the end making the F phoneme. And then they see this as well with words like she and be and we as well. So they quickly pick up on that how there are some hard to read and spell words where they have the F at the end making the E phoneme. So it would be like he, we, be, etc. And this is a very popular one. You see this a lot. said. So children are taught back in reception that the A and I come together to make the A sound. So when they first see this word, often children will say said, but then they're taught that this is a hard to read and spell word because the A and I, they make the E phoneme for this word. So it's having regular practice with this, and this is what children do in classes. They make sure that they have regular practice reading these hard to read and spell words, and we make sure that we have them written all around the school or in a classroom to make sure children see them more often so they become more familiar with it. And that's something that you can do with them at home on a regular basis. Okay. Segment. So this is breaking down a word into its individual phonemes. We do this when we're encouraging children to read a word that they have never seen before. So let's say a child sees the word shark and isn't able to read it. We would encourage them to segment it. So like on here, to go shark, shark. What I've done there is I've just broken them down into individual graphemes, showing their individual phonemes. And then again, it, and then s-a-o. So they are able then to identify the individual phonemes, which will then help them with the blending side of it. That's where they join all the individual phonemes together in order to read a word. Now, with some children, you might find that they need to have more practice with blending. We would often say to them that they blend it slowly. So with shark, for example, they go shark, 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 and carry on doing that, getting faster and faster with the blending. It just takes lots of practice, but with the segmenting and blending, it will help children be able to read words that they've not seen before. Alternative graphemes. So this is where you have different ways of writing the same sound. Your children are currently looking at a lot of alternative graphemes. So I've got an example here where you have the EA digraph, but you'll notice they're including different words where they have different phonemes. So for example, you have each here where the phoneme for this grapheme will be E, but then here, great, the phoneme for this grapheme is A, and then finally for this one here, the phoneme for this grapheme is E. So children start to learn that there are some graphemes where they have alternative pronunciations. Okay, I'm just going to talk to you a bit about the National Curriculum Reading Objectives for Year 1. So the first one says, apply phonic knowledge and skills as a route to decode words. So this is the children being able to apply what they've learned in phonics in order to be able to read the words that they see in a book. And read accurately by blending sounds in unfamiliar words containing GPCs as have been taught. So it goes back to what I was saying before about blending the sounds, blending the phonemes. So a child, when they see a word that they've never seen before, they're able to use their phonics skills by segmenting the word first into its individual phonemes, but then blend all those phonemes together to be able to read the word. So here it says GPCs. Now, I did not mention this before, but GPC stands for Grapheme Phoneme Correspondent. So that's basically saying what the grapheme is, what's written, and what the phoneme is that matches that grapheme. That's what it basically means. Respond speedily with the correct sound to graphemes, letters or groups of letters for all 40 plus phonemes, including, where applicable, alternative sounds for graphemes. So this basically means that the children being confident, being able to recognize all the GPCs that they've been taught, but also be able to identify the alternative phonemes that each grapheme might have. So going to that example 4, if they see the digraph with EA, they're able to say that it is E, but also it's A as well, but also. Okay, I'm just going to talk to you a bit about the phonics scheme that we use at Little League Primary School. So we use ELS, which stands for Essential Letters and Sounds. In reception and in Year 1, we teach one phonics lesson every day to ensure that your child is able to practice reading on a regular basis. In lessons, they are taught new grapheme, and they're also taught which phoneme matches that grapheme, and they have time to practice writing that grapheme, but also be able to practice reading words that include that grapheme, and eventually read sentences that include words that include the grapheme that they've been taught. So there'll be some weeks where the children review what they've been taught. It's important that the children have regular reviews so they can recap on what they've previously been taught. So it helps them become more confident readers by reviewing what they have been taught. And also the children do practice reading hard to read and spell words. So throughout reception and year one, especially in reception, the children are taught hard to read and spell words in lessons, and this is so we can help them become more confident readers when they're reading words, because when you read a sentence in a book, you'll often come across a hard to read and spell word. So it's important that we teach children how to read and spell words from an early age so they're able to read these words in their books, and it helps them become more fluent readers. So in phonics, we do use flashcards, which will include the grapheme, and we will teach them what the phoneme is that matches that grapheme. But also on the flashcard, it will have a mnemonic, which helps them remember that grapheme and the phoneme that goes with it. For example, this one here, you'll see as a tie there. You can't probably see it well on this picture, but the mnemonic would be pie on my tie. And for the owl here, this one is a proud cloud. It's a good way to help the children remember that grapheme. So when they see that grapheme, they can remember that visual in their head to help them remember what the phoneme is. So these here we do have on display as well, so the children can refer to them every single day when they're applying in their writing or whether they need help with their reading, and they can refer back to it. Okay, so what is the Phonics Screening Check? The Phonics Screening Check is an assessment that children take in year one to see whether they are able to apply the skills that they have learnt in phonics to help them become confident and fluent readers. It is a way to help us see where the children are at currently reading and which children may need extra support when they move to year two. So during the Phonics Screening Check, the children will be asked to read in total 40 words. 20 of them will be real words and 20 of them will be pseudo words. We'll talk more about that shortly. So for every single word, we would like the children to segment them. And the reason for this is because by segmenting the words, they will be able to identify all the phonemes and then blend them together. It's important that the children do segment every single one of these words to make sure they have correctly identified all the phonemes that are in the word so they can successfully blend them together. Okay, here's an example of a past paper of the Phonics Screening Check. On the left here are pseudo words. Pseudo words are words that are not real. Alternatively, they're called alien words. So when the children see a picture of an alien next to a word, they know immediately that these are not real words and they must not try and turn them into real words. And then on the right here, these are real words. We will say that all the children must segment and blend every single one of these words, like I said before, so they're able to identify the phonemes correctly and successfully blend them. I'm just going to talk to you now about the Phonics Screening Check pass mark. The pass mark has always been 32, and if your child reads 31 or less words correctly, they'll retake the Phonics Screening Check in year 2. This is not a concern. This is to inform us if there are any children who require further support when they're in year 2. And if they do require more support in year 2, we will be planning interventions in order to help them become more confident when reading in preparation for the Phonics Screening Check. You will be informed about your child's mark of the Phonics Screening Check when you get your summer reports. So the Phonics Screening Check will take place on the week commencing Monday the 9th of June. Your child in that week will do one Phonics Screening Check paper, but we can't guarantee that they'll do it on that Monday. They might do it on a Tuesday or might do it on a Wednesday. It could be a Thursday. We will only be doing Phonics Screening Check papers from just after 9 o'clock until 10:30. So if your child doesn't do it on Monday, they might have to do it on Tuesday, or it could be Wednesday, and so on. It is so important that your child is in school that week in order to complete the Phonics Screening Check. We can't do the Phonics Screening Check the week after, so it is vital that your child is in that week. The teacher who will be conducting the Phonics Screening Check will be Miss Oldknow. The reason for this is because she is your child's class teacher. She knows them best, and we want to make sure that every child feels at ease when completing the phonics screening check. So throughout the week, Miss Oldknow will select one child at a time to go and read words with her in a quiet area of the school. We choose a quiet area of the school so there are less distractions. And this next bit I'm going to say to you is very important. Please do not say to your child that they've got an important test coming up or they've got an important reading exam. Please don't even mention the phonics screening check to them. We want to treat it like a normal day at school. So Miss Oldknow is going to say to your child on the day of their phonics screening check, can you just come and read some words with me? And we're just going to treat it like a normal day of reading at school. So they regularly read words with Miss Oldknow, so they'll see it as a normal day at school, but it's going to a quiet area of the school, so it's less noisy. So please don't say it's a test, please don't say it's an exam. Best not to mention the phonics screening check at all. We don't want your child to feel nervous about it. So it's best not to even mention it at all. Let's just treat it as a normal day at school, so they can feel at ease when they are doing it. So you're probably wondering, what can you do as parents to help your child get ready for the phonics screening check? Well, one thing I will say straight away is continue to read with them at home. The more they read, the more opportunity they'll have to apply their segmenting and blending skills that they've learned in phonics, and the more opportunities they'll have to apply reading those graphemes that they've been taught in phonics lessons. Also, use those sound maps that Miss Oldknow gave at the beginning of the year. It's important that the children become familiar with these graphemes and what phonemes match with them. Also, there are games online that you can play with your child. One game that in particular I'd recommend is Buried Treasure, which can be found on the website Phonics Play. Now, when you go on the Phonics Play website, it does say pay for a subscription. However, Buried Treasure is free. So it's a game that your child can play for free at home. So with that game, you would choose the grapheme that you're going to focus on, and then your child will read a variety of words, with some of them being real words and some of them being pseudo words. They have to read them very carefully and choose whether they go in the chest, which means it's a real word, or in the bin, which means it's a pseudo word. So I would definitely recommend that. The website Top Marks has also got a variety of phonics games that are very good, but also this one here, Phonics with Small Town Superheroes. That is also an excellent website to use, and with that website, it will go through some alternative graphemes with them, so it helps children practice reading words that have those alternative graphemes that they're currently reading at school. I also have here little games that you can play. What I want to do is put it on the school website. So these are just a couple of examples, but I've got a list of games that you can play with your child at home. So these are like practical games, ones that don't require the internet. So the first one here is real versus nonsense words game. So it's like very similar to Buried Treasure. So you just write some words down on the cards, and then you get the child to read them, and they decide whether they go in the treasure chest or whether they go in the bin. So you could get yourself like a little small bin, and then the child could maybe create a little treasure chest or anything like that, really. So they have something to put the words in when they're playing this game. Also, this one here, sound button pressing. This is a very simple game. You can write some words on the cards for children, but then put the sound buttons on underneath. So with the word, for example, like cat, you would put a dot under k, and then a dot under a, and then a dot under t. And then get your child to regularly practice pressing those buttons underneath to get them to actually practice segmenting. The reason for this is because we want to make sure that children do segment these words for a phonics screening check. So even though we are teaching at the moment to become fluent readers, be able to recognise words without segmenting, it's important that for the phonics screening check that they do segment so they're able to successfully read the words correctly. So after watching this video, you might have some questions that you want answering regarding the phonics screening check. If you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to speak to myself or Miss Oldknow. We'd be very happy to answer any questions that you have in regards to the phonics screening check. Alternatively, you can email us, and our email addresses are currently on the screen. So if you want to email your questions, please do. But thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. Have a great day and keep on reading to your children.